Hi, and welcome to episode 59 of Think Like a Hacker, the podcast about WordPress security and innovation. This week, we have an interview with Gjerstad. He is one of the founders of Mailpoet, a service that allows you to run a mailing list directly within your WordPress administrative dashboard. Kim sat down with Mark at WordCamp US and talked about everything from preventing abuse of an email system to how to improve your NPS or Net Promoter Score. Enjoy.
So I'm at WordCamp US 2019 in St. Louis with Kim Gjerstad, who is the co-founder of Mailpoet. Kim?
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow. And you and I have known each other now for about 4 years, but I haven't seen you for about 4 years.
That's correct.
I think the last time we saw each other was in San Francisco, WordCamp US in San Francisco, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So it's been a while, and I just randomly ran into you last night at the epic WordCamp party at this crazy museum, eh?
Yeah, that's right. It was a great venue.
Yeah.
Great venue.
It felt a little dangerous to me.
Yeah, it was a little dangerous, especially in America. Everyone's so careful about not getting sued. Yeah. So I was like, wow, this is interesting.
This is keeping it real.
Yeah,
you could actually die here, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was epic. Yeah. So you and I were chatting off camera. We'll dive into what you do, and of course you're the co-founder of Mailpoet, but a moment ago you and I were chatting off camera, and we're chatting about your background, and you have such a kind of mixed background. I would love for you to kind of relate that back to you. So you're born in San Francisco.
Yeah. My father's Norwegian, my mom is French-Canadian, and I now live in France. So I speak 4 languages, and I spent maybe a quarter of my life in Africa, in Mozambique and Congo as well.
And so you kind of grew up in Mozambique?
Yeah, as a young child, and then I spent most of my 20s in Congo, working for the UN and in conservation, wildlife conservation as well. So
and so you worked for the UN, and you're in the conservation division. What exactly did you do there?
So at the UN, we worked for a radio station. So we essentially built like an NPR or small BBC for Congo.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty big project. There was 200 journalists, 8 local stations, and Congo at the time had like 60 million people, an average population of, and we were reaching out daily like 20 million people. So the reach of the radio was massive. It was the first time I was in such a huge reach. Everywhere we went, and we said we worked for the radio in small villages, it'd be like, oh my God, you work for the radio, the radio. So it was pretty amazing. And actually, that website was one of my first interactions, because I was working on the website aspect of it. And that was one of my first WordPress projects. We had an old custom CMS that we had built in parts with some independent developers, and then we switched it all to WordPress, and it was just like, that's like my first time like going big on WordPress.
Yeah, wow. How did you get into radio? How did you get into media?
My dad's a journalist, so
family business?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, my dad was always happy I didn't follow in his footsteps, but I was always we were in a media household basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then you somehow transitioned into WordPress and ultimately co-founded Mailpoet. How did that journey work?
That's so. I had a gig after a few years in Africa. I had a gig in San Francisco. I worked in Silicon Valley. And my time there made me realize that I wanted to try starting my own business. So wasn't sure what to do. So for 2 years, I kept on looking for a business idea until I stumbled on a man who was doing a newsletter plugin, but for Joomla.
Okay.
And at that time, when we were building WordPress websites, there wasn't that many emailing solutions that were well integrated. So I told this guy, hey, well, at a party, I told him, we need to take your solution and bring it to WordPress and make it simpler, So that's how it started.
Okay. And you're a co-founder, so you have another founder?
I had founders. We were 4 initially, and but I in time bought them all back. So I'm the sole founder today.
Okay.
The remaining
cool.
one, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you're based in France, right?
Yep.
And the rest of the team you mentioned is distributed?
That's right. So there's 13 of us in total, and we're mostly in Europe. And we try to hire mostly in Europe just because it's easier to manage for time. And but they're all over. So UK, Italy, Czech Republic, Moscow, Lithuania. We have one person in Brazil, and one in Morocco or in France. He changes, and there's two other of us in France. So
yeah, very cool.
The business is in France, but there's only one French person working there. So
okay. And for listeners or viewers who have not used Mailpoet, can you give us the summary of what it does? So
Mailpoet is it's a MailChimp in WordPress. That's the easiest way to understand it. So you can manage your list, create a form, you have email templates, you can do some email automation. Mailpoet today has a sending service as well, so that allows you to send your emails without going through your host. So it's pretty plug and play. So what makes us stand apart from most email players today is that we're in the admin of WordPress, and that saves the users a lot of time. There's no copy and pasting your content to another platform. So it's pretty, it's a huge time saver, really. That's what it is.
Yeah. And is Mailpoet free or paid, or how does it work?
So we have, everything is free up to 1,000 subscribers, and then we have paid for versions, and then that comes in two forms. So either you pay and then you can send with your own host, or you can send with SendGrid or Amazon. That's a fixed price, $150. Or you can pay by sending plans with us, and then it scales up. So depending on how big is your list, you'll be paying more or less. So,
okay, got it. Yeah.
Very much like many other emailing companies.
Yeah. And so you've done a lot of thinking about security. I mean, when we chatted last night and a little bit earlier now, you're saying that you folks have, I guess, learned a lot and evolved a lot in terms of security, and because of what you do with email, I guess you implemented some things. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so we decided a couple of years back that we wanted to do sending. And so we had two choices. Either we white labeled like Mailgun or SendGrid, or possibly we built our own sending platform. And I was never, building a sending service is a rather complex endeavor. So I wasn't, somebody convinced me, somebody that works in deliverability that sets up like sending services for large corporations or enterprises told me, you can actually do it, it's not that hard, and I'll help you. So we took on the challenge and we built our own little Mailgun or SendGrid. And that works quite well, actually. It's fun to actually own the entire process in-house. And it's great for our team also to be able to say, well, we actually do everything from A to Z in the email in our space. We don't depend on any third parties. Now, what we quickly discovered when we were offering Mailpoet in a free version and paid for, is that there's a lot of abuse. So there's a lot of like spam actors, phishing, scams, and so as we progressed in this project, we were systematically building walls and building walls and building walls and building walls. And you know what? 2-3 years on, we're still building walls, you know. So and when we meet other big senders, let's say we talk to folks at Mailchimp or etc., they're in the same game. They're constantly on the lookout for abuse, and abuse has become very. It's, you know, a typical phishing campaign today would be only 200 emails sent or 250 emails sent. So it's very hard to detect behavior.
Okay. Okay. Or do you feel like you're catching up, or is it just a constant battle?
It's a constant battle that we're winning.
Okay.
But to fully automate the entire process in terms of mitigating abuse would be difficult. There's a lot of human involvement still.
Okay.
To automate it, you'd have to go at a much bigger scale, like a Mailchimp scale, or perhaps Gmail scale or Outlook scale. Their filters are like, they have AI, and they're. But if you take, for example, Gmail, Gmail is above anything. It's mostly a spam filter. Then it happens to be for a mailbox, or it's an anti-abuse.
Yeah, I would say that's the strength.
It's
filtering and categorization in general, right?
Mailchimp. Gmail is a project like Gmail is a security project. That's it. So it happens to be with email.
Yeah, maybe you could define it as a categorization project
as well. Yeah,
which is kind of what security is, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So, what's next for Mailpoet on the horizon?
We're right now in terms of product. We just wanna. We're not going to build anything big new. We just want to improve what we already have. So we're entering a phase of optimization of products.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have this strong bias towards constantly creating new things, and at some point a few years ago, I realized it's really worthwhile knuckling down and focusing on making Wordfence the best it can possibly be.
Yeah.
And that's really paid off for us.
Yeah. It's like the engineers that work the developers that work at Mailpoet always talk about, let's manage our tech debt, right? So we spend maybe 20% of our time just on technical debt.
Yeah.
The product team has like now adopted this. We're trying to adopt also this word, and we have product debt, and we need to tackle this product debt. So we need to always look at the interface, see if we can remove a click or make it simpler, make it easier.
Yeah.
We started to look at NPS score as a. It's been a year now. We've been looking at NPS score to get a general idea of the feel of our users. Yeah. So we started with an NPS score that was pretty low, at like 25. So basically, just for people who are not familiar with the NPS score, it's like the Net Promoter Score, and it's an easy way to. It's this question you get asked on many websites: would you recommend this service or product to your friends or family? And then you have to vote from 1 to 10. That gives you a score. So the NPS score, it's really good if it's between like 50 and 70. Like Zoom. When they went public, they stated our NPS score is 90. It's extremely rare.
Okay.
So we started with an NPS score of like 25, which was really low. Yeah. And we built it up, and then we're at 50 now. And it's harder to go higher, but we want to get to 60.
Yeah.
So that's onboarding. That's good support. That's a proper user interface. Yeah. Good documentation, videos. To move an NPS score, it's a lot of work.
Awesome.
It's a lot of everything.
Awesome. All right. So, are you enjoying WordCamp so far?
I am. I have not been to a WordCamp in the US in a long time.
Yeah.
So
perhaps since we last saw each other.
Yeah. I think I had been to other, perhaps one, maybe a local one, like in Montreal or something since. But I stayed in Europe in the last couple of years, and I had done so many WordCamps. I just needed to go and see other spaces.
For sure, yeah.
And so I went to different types of conferences to learn different things, and it's a real eye opener. It's good to keep your eyes open. So.
Yeah. Are you going to go to any parties tonight?
I probably will go. I probably would go. Yeah, I'd probably go to a couple of parties. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I hope you can make it to ours.
Yeah.
And it's been great chatting with you. And as I mentioned to you last night and again today, it's wonderful seeing you again.
Yep.
And are you going to be at EU?
I will be at EU. I'll be also in Asia in February.
Okay, great. Well, I will see you at EU, and I might see you in Asia. And It's been wonderful chatting.
Cool.
So thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right.
We hope you enjoyed the interview with Kim Gjerstad. Isn't it amazing how he learned to speak 4 different languages in all of the places that he's lived? You can follow Kim on Twitter at Gjerstad, and you can learn more about Mailpoet at mailpoet.com. We'll be back later this week with the news. Thanks for watching.